listening to Strides and Vibes. Whether you're on a long run, a lunch break, or stretching out with your foam roller, welcome to the podcast all about moving better, living healthier, and vibing higher. I'm your host, Mario Buchs, elite running coach, ultra-endurance athlete, and founder of Healthetica Coaching, coming to you from the trails, tracks, and streets of Gadigal country in Sydney, Australia. Each episode, I'll bring in guests from all walks, from coaches, athletes to world-class performers, as well as doctors and professionals in their fields, to unpack their stories and explore the mindset shifts, science, and practical strategies that help us go the distance in running and in life. So, lace up, tune in, and let's move towards a better you, one stride at a time. Hello. This is the Strides and Vibes podcast. And today we have a very special guest. We're going to talk about feet. So it's a little bit about running. No, it's actually a hell of a lot about running and the impact of running on our feet. So please welcome to the Strides and Vibes podcast, Alessya Oreb. Hello, Alessya. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm good. And yourself, Mario?
Fantastic. I've done my run, I've done a bike ride, I've done some work, and now we're doing this. This is the highlight of the day for me, absolutely. So I kick off every podcast with the same question to my guests. What makes you, Alessya?
What makes me me? Well, I am from Canada. I'm from Toronto. I moved to Australia about 8 years ago now. I went to school in Toronto. I went to York University first, studied kinesiology, sport medicine. That took me 4 years with full-time commitment, graduated with honors. Then I pursued podiatry and University of Toronto with Mission Institute. That took me another 4 years full-time with honors, and then I worked in various public and private sectors, including hospitals. I did have my own practice in Toronto. I also had about 11 satellite locations that were under my guidance. And when I moved here, I got married. And ever since, I've been just working my way to become an Australian podiatrist, and 8 years down the road, now have a successful practice, and I also have my own small business which I distribute healthcare products to other podiatrists. And plus I have 2 beautiful children and a husband.
And he's beautiful as well, no doubt. Excellent.
Yes,
Perfect. This is awesome. This is, I love this, these kind of things, these journeys and hardworking people. And I'm not saying never give up, but this attitude, just looking forward. And I know when we met, we kind of clicked immediately, obviously from a running perspective, but also on a personal level, we immediately knew that, 2 hardworking people with common goals of doing the best and helping others. This is what this podcast is about, actually. Last week I interviewed a coach who helps others when he goes in with his health mindset and holistic mindset. And you do the same, you want to try and help other people. Maybe I want to mention quickly, you have got a doctorate in Canada in podiatry, so this is quite important to mention, that's quite some achievement above all the honors and stuff. So let's get into it. Obviously, the subject is the impact of running on our feet. Let's start from the ground up. What actually happens to our feet when we run? I mean, I run quite a bit, and there's a lot of people out there who run even more. So what exactly happens?
So I'd like to discuss first all common foot injuries and ailments and provide you with tips how to keep your feet healthy and happy. Let's talk about what can happen during long distance runs and how you can prevent it as well as treat it. Let's talk also about the tremendous impact that we put on our feet, the stress. With each step, your feet absorb shock and bear your body weight multiple times over and over. especially during long runs or intense training sessions like ultra marathons. So this can lead to many foot conditions that are, if not managed properly.
So what are the most common ailments then, when it comes to
Well, the
when it
most
comes to
common
running?
ones that I
Let's knock a few
see
out.
in my practice for the last 12 years being a podiatrist are blisters. These are caused by excessive friction within the shoe, often due to wet conditions or poor fitting footwear, especially excessive sweating, which is actually normal during physical activity. My tip is to use moleskin to protect those hot spots before they become blisters. And moleskin is usually available at your podiatrist. It's a pink sheet. You can cut it out and apply directly where you are prone to develop blisters. The next one would be actually toenail damage. Repeated trauma can lead to black toenails or complete toenail loss. What you can do is ensure you have enough toe box room for your toes and keep your nails cut straight across, never curve. Actually, I have seen so many nail injuries that result in nail fungus. Research tells us that 85% of all onychomycosis, which is nail fungus, are caused by some sort of nail injury. And the natural history of onychomycosis, it starts with a fungal skin infection first, and then it advances and travels under the hypernychium of the nail, which is traumatized or injured by some sort of repetitive trauma, such as a shoe. The next one would be hallux rigidus, which is a stiffness of the big toe. It's a form of arthritis, osteoarthritis. It can be very painful when you run. I recommend continuous and proper techniques used to improve mobility within the first metatarsophalangeal joint, which is the big toe, as well as custom orthotics. Because custom orthotics, if done properly, they can have modifications. They can release the stress and the loading on that big joint.
For a short
Yeah.
period of time, or
So
not forever,
orthotics
really, yeah?
are not meant, really, custom orthotics are not meant for a short period of time.
Okay.
What I see a lot is that patients wear an orthotic that provides that proper alignment for, let's say, a couple of weeks or months, and then go back to their old shoe without an orthotic. What happens is our bodies go in shock because it's like a pendulum. You start somewhere and then you go to completely different foundation, different alignment of the body. So then you develop various foot ailments as well as back pain and knee pain. To reduce, if you're not pro orthotics, I recommend a very serious exercise. You can check them out. It's called the Foot Collective. It's an Instagram account. I'm sure you know of it. They have proper tools and visuals how to exercise and gain mobility within your feet. So it's specific for your feet. It's not just for the whole body. So yeah, that's my go-to. Either you stick to an orthotic, as well as just some joint mobility, or you just adhere to a very vigorous and consistent foot exercise.
Yeah, I think just to balance in there, I like what you say, that big toe, people underestimate how important the big toe is for running. And if you've got a stiff big toe, like you say, a rigid big toe,
It can
your
be
running
very
will
painful.
suffer.
Yeah.
Correct. And I like that. So when I watch my runners run, I actually focus on something like that immediately.
So
And you're
it's a
right, you can.
mechanical correction.
Correct.
That
Yeah,
can be done.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
look, if there's a balance, how to get that right. But I would always want people to be as mobile as possible. You want to have as much dorsiflexion in that whole foot, right? The foot, there's a reason there's podiatrists. The foot is such a complex thing.
Yeah,
Something
so
else you mentioned earlier on is, the weight the foot has to bear on each landing and each time it takes off is is intense, you know, it's
I
vast.
can
So,
go on and on about
yeah,
the gait analysis and how
of
we
course.
run and the proper propulsion through your big toe, starting from the lateral aspect of your heel. There's so much to it, and as you said, podiatry is very vast.
I
we
think
can
we'll
talk
talk
about.
about that foot propulsion in another podcast. I think you've just hit the nail on the head. That is so
Yeah,
important for people to
so
understand. I see
important.
so
Yeah.
many injuries. Me, myself, when I say injuries, I'm not pointing at anybody. I've gone through everything. And every time I have a little bit of an issue with my feet, you know, sometimes a little dome in my shoe helps just to spread the feet again. You mentioned that big
Yes,
toe box, you know, very important. Yeah, very
there are
important.
various ways to manage that. Aside from just having hallux rigidus, which is osteoarthritis, there's also plantar fasciitis. I'm sure you've heard of that
Oh,
one.
yes. Oh,
It's
yes.
an inflammation of the fascia, which starts from your heel and expands in three bands to your toes. Okay, so it's common in both flat-footed individuals, runners, and high-arched runners as well. For
Okay.
this, I would strongly recommend concentrating on your calves
Okay.
because that's where the muscle originates in your gastrocnemius soleus group that turns into Achilles tendon. That Achilles tendon attaches to the calcaneal bone, which is your heel, and spreads into the fascia, which is the three bands that I mentioned. As well as you can actually, so by doing the regular stretches of your calf exercises, such as heel raises, or there are various techniques you can actually look up on YouTube. But my favorite is actually freezing a bottle of water, a
Mm-hmm.
plastic bottle, and roll your foot on it standing up for about 15 minutes. That's the easiest approach and the fastest cure. What
So
it
is that,
does.
okay. So is this a cure or is this prevention?
So this is it's basically when you feel that the arch, the middle of your foot starts to flare up, and you
Mm-hmm.
notice it the most in the morning when you get up from bed. You put your feet on the floor, and it's like, oh, it's burning, and it can be very painful to step for the first three steps. So when you start recognizing that's happening, action is such as frozen bottle can actually eliminate inflammatory cycle. And the inflammatory cycle starts and actually goes into four different stages. You must catch it in that first stage to reduce the inflammatory cycle so it doesn't go into more destruction of the fascia, which can cause other problems as well. So
And it
frozen
takes a long
bottle,
time to
calf
heal.
stretches, and supportive shoes, even when you're not running.
Ah,
Really
okay. So
important.
no, none of
A
this
lot of my
barefoot walking
patients,
around, huh?
yes, a lot of my patients say, "Oh, I have no problem when I'm walking outside. As soon as I get home, I take off my shoes and my feet start to hurt." That's because you've supported your feet throughout the day with, perhaps some of them have arch supports, etc. And then you go from one extreme to another, which is being barefoot on a hard surface. That can also cause a lot of stress on the tissue.
As a past uh, sufferer of plantar fasciitis, it takes a long time to go away. I mean, it's not about my story here now. When I had plantar fasciitis back in 2015 or 16, it took a long time to go. Once it was gone, I actually never got it back. But I'm a big fan of prevention, better
Yeah,
than
so
cure.
calf
And I know you're
stretches,
in the same realm, yeah. Just back to the
absolutely.
calves, I think the most underrated calf, or there's two calf muscles. You mentioned it, the soleus and the gastrocnemius. And the soleus is actually the one that we use more, which is the smaller one for running. And that's the
Correct.
one that people underuse when they do any strength weight. So they just do straight calf raises, and that all that does is strengthen the gastroc, but it never even touches the
That's
sole.
right. So
So
to stretch
what's your tip?
soleus,
Yeah.
it's a very different technique. It's best to, obviously, by me explaining it, you're not going to have a proper visual, but it's best to look it up on YouTube and just type in soleus group stretching technique, and that will give you a proper physiotherapist approach. But the way to stretch soleus, really, you have to use a chair where you prompt yourself and you bend one of your knees, and that's how you gain a proper stretch, but not lifting your heels off the floor. So that's there's a way of doing it properly. But in most of my cases that when I see plantar fasciitis, 9 out of 10, all of my patients have extremely tight gastrocnemius muscle, calf muscle. So my first approach is always stretch the calves, and then we can do everything else.
Perfect. Oh, you're so in line with how I operate. It's crazy. I think
Hey
we'll have
Mario,
to
have
get
you
you
ever
down to
heard
one
of
of our
kissing
sessions.
corns?
Yes, yes.
Do you know what they are? These
I've
form
heard of them,
between
but
the
I wouldn't
toes.
know. Ah, yes, yes,
And they form
correct,
between
yes.
the toes.
That's
I
right,
usually
yeah.
tell my patients to use a silicone toe prop. It's a toe separator. They can stop them from kissing.
Yes.
Some people just don't have enough space between the fourth and the fifth metatarsal, which is the fourth and the fifth digit. And what
So the
happens is
two little
because of
guys, right? For the
the
listeners, yeah.
two little guys that you have fourth and fifth. They don't have enough room there, so the air is not circulating properly, right? So what happens? Moisture builds up, and because they're squished in the shoe, they can create a direct force onto each other. So they stuck together, and then that's how the corns form. It's not due to friction; it's actually a direct force. Bone
All
on
right,
bone,
okay,
so to speak.
okay,
That's why
okay.
a lot of my patients come in with very painful cords between the toes, especially runners. And what happens is I take a number 15 blade and I cut them out. And then
Awesome.
to prevent it, there are toe props. There are silicone toe props that we recommend using, so they're actually not in close proximity to each other.
Just, I know we're going to talk about the dark side of running in a second. Just going back to blisters, I experience a lot of runners in an ultra distance event that never have blisters.
Yeah.
But sadly, they have blisters. And if they don't have the right, I mean, we all carry what we should be carrying for blisters. But what's the best way? Look, I'm not after a magic pill. Blisters, as they happen, obviously it's a hot spot. Let's say we don't have any moleskin available. What's the
Let's say,
next
let's say you
best
don't
thing?
have anything on you.
Yeah.
Well, before you run, and being an ultra marathon coach, runner, you kind of been there, done that, so you are somewhat mentally and physically prepared because it's not an easy accomplishment to be there. So there natural ways of preventing blisters. You can use, it's an ointment type that's called Happy Toes. It's a peppermint type, sort of very viscous, Vaseline-like. They can, instead of lubricating it, it sort of acts as your own skin barrier,
Yeah.
as an
From
extra skin,
Squirrel's nut butter.
double skin.
Squirrel's nut butter is the
Yeah, that's
producer
it.
of it. Yeah.
That's
So
it, yeah.
yeah, I love this, and to the audience, this we have not discussed this. This is an individual, so I'm a big fan of Happy Toes, and to see Alessya saying the same thing. So this was not agreed upon beforehand, and I have no affiliation with Squirrel's Nut Butter. What I actually do, and I learned that from my top runner friend Kai, who does this the night before, puts the socks on, keeps the socks on during the night, and then reapplies in the morning. And I've never had blisters after 35 hours in the rain, never changed my socks.
Yeah.
So great tip. Thank you very much. And on the run, that's the same kind of thing as it happens during the run. You just need to kind of loop it up, Vaseline or whatever is available. Okay, dark side of running. What do we call the dark side of running?
Dark side.
Oh, there's a lot going on up here, but it's got nothing to do with what goes on in the inside of the head. What do you call the dark side of running?
Well, black toenails is the dark side of running. I'm sure you've heard of this before, maybe experienced it yourself. So what it
Every
is,
race.
it's the worst nightmare of every runner, especially ultra marathon. We call this subungual hematomas.
Okay.
It's a common issue, especially those that do very long distances. What it is, it's blood, dry blood that collects underneath the nail, and it's often due to repetitive trauma. There are several ways to prevent it. What you can do is And there's several factors that actually they can cause this issue. It's for people that do downhill runs, that constant pounding of your big toe against the front of the shoe. And it's repeated over and over. That can cause black toenails to form. Then an issue with...
So where does the blood come? How does the blood happen?
What happens is that we have multiple, if not billions of vessels, capillaries, that intertwine at the apex of each toe, specifically big toe. Being closer to the front of the shoe, so the end of your big toe, closer to the front of the shoe, there is that repetitive contact, impact, and the vessels can pop. Especially if the shoe does not have enough depth. So the shoe is narrow and it's doesn't have enough depth, so the top of the shoe can also put a lot of pressure on top of the toe. So what happens, the nail bed can potentially burst, the capillaries within the nail bed.
Okay. So that's one thing I've noticed, because obviously I've had my fair share of these. Every race, it's just, especially the trail races. Yeah. I think the other thing that also happens is the bed of the toenail, that starts hurting as well, because actually that pounding not only causes that friction at the front, but it also smashes the root, or I call it the root, the bed of the nail. So that's actually the most painful part.
The matrix of the nail is the root.
Correct.
The matrix of the nail. Yeah. So ill-fitted shoe, or some shoes actually that are too big, can exacerbate the problem. So a lot of movement. That can be friction within the shoe, unnecessary friction that can cause that repetitive trauma impact. And of course, intensity and long distance can cause black toenails.
Yeah, I mean, look, us blokes, we have a disadvantage. We can't just go painting our toenails when we go out that night.
I'll tell you more about that later.
Good. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Now,
there are ways to prevent it.
Yeah, this is what I'm after.
You don't have to paint your toes, Mario. Please don't do it.
No, I haven't. I'm proud of my 7 black toenails after each race. It's like people always know, he's a runner, so they don't steal anything from me. They know I can run after them. Maybe, I don't know. I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
I know you're joking. I'm joking too.
Tomorrow I'll go, but it is. I am actually quite proud, and it shows that that's something, especially after a race. You can see everybody hobbling around in their sandals or their thongs, their flip-flops.
Oh, I've been myself after one marathon I did in May this past May, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be only downhill. I think even I've had black toenails running Sydney Marathon last year, so I think there is a bit of downhill, but it's a balance.
A combination of both. Running downhill, or basically a shoe that's either too tight or too loose.
Okay.
There are several ways you can prevent it. I'll tell you more how to properly get fitted for a shoe by yourself without going to an athlete's foot store. So there are certain techniques you can follow, which I'll tell you more towards the end of our podcast. But if you can cut your nails straight across, never curve. Because if you curve your nails when you cut them, it can cause a nail to grow in to the nail fold, which causes an ingrown toenail. I see this every single day in my practice. Ingrown toenails can be followed by a bacterial infection. And every time a patient goes to see a GP, their medical doctor, they often put on antibiotics. Unfortunately, it does not clear the problem, because the nail has already dug its way through, and your body responds to it as a foreign object. So because it responds to it as a foreign object, your body treats it as an infection, and that's why bacterial infection it's ongoing. So what we do, we cut a small spicule of the nail, either surgically with a local anesthetic, or some of my patients are very brave, they just go without, and then that can...
Which will be every ultra round out there.
I'm sure, yeah. So that can potentially cause the nail to go straight across, as opposed to being involuted, curved.
Okay.
Then we can also provide more cushion for pushing, which is doubling up your socks. Some podiatrists recommend actually switching to a thinner sock, but I'm all for socking it up. Basically, cushion you have around your toes, the more protection there is. And as well as lacing techniques are very important. I recently wrote an article about proper shoe fit and various types of lacing techniques in particularly for each foot type and foot problem. So it's important to experiment with different lacing patterns to reduce the movement in the shoe and basically prevent all those ailments in the first place. Prevention is key.
Perfect. And just for the audience as well, all the notes and everything that Alessya talks about today, and she's been kind enough to share all this with us. So I'll once the show notes are ready, there'll be links to everything and everything you've written, because it's only going to be helpful for us, you know. And shoelacing is one of those things that people underestimate, of course. Just one last question to the black toenails. Is there any, I know once we have them, is it just a matter of letting them do their thing, or is there something we need to really be careful of that it can't, you know, I don't want it to be an infection or something?
Yes, Mario, thanks for asking that question. Well, yes and no. In some cases, it can simply grow out. However, if you experience, listeners, if you experience any of pain or pressure buildup in the nail, it's best to drain the blood to relieve pressure. And I don't recommend self-treatment. I recommend to see a podiatrist because it can result in a completely different story, such as infection. So draining blood from the nail can help with releasing some of that pressure. As well as podiatrists tend to cut the nail that's no longer attached to your nail bed to prevent that nail being cut by your socks or bed sheets or shoe. So the way we do it properly, and that the new nail grows out within 6 months or so.
6 months.
Speaking of the nail polish, Mario, you mentioned, no to nail polish. Ladies, please do not use nail polish when you see a black toenail. Why? Because it prevents your nail from breathing, and it could potentially lead to nail loss. In 8 out of 10 cases, almost always followed by nail fungus. So I recommend, if you have to put a nail polish to go out, put it on, take it off the next day.
All right, okay.
And it's always best to monitor for any signs of infection, pain, redness, discharge, because that can be indicating a bacterial infection that can potentially cause cellulitis.
Okay. So that brings us to another subject, you know, my favorite subject, you know, from fungal to fabulous. That's how we met, you know. It's very notorious and it's very stubborn. So enlighten us.
My favorite topic.
It is the cherry on the cake.
Before we go on about the fungal infections, I'd like to mention one thing about black toenails. Because not all black toenails are just a sign of any recent trauma or just because my shoe was too tight, it caused the dry blood to accumulate. There are certain things that, as a podiatrist, I feel that I do need to mention. There are certain things that can indicate a lot serious problem, such as subungual melanoma. This is rare, but extremely serious. And if you notice any nail discoloration without any recent trauma, especially if it extends to the cuticles, get it checked by a doctor.
Okay.
The sooner you check, the faster you can adhere to a treatment. And any pigmentation within the nail can mean many different things. So I thought that it's important to mention that not all black toenails are just a sign of trauma.
Okay, good, perfect. Thank you very much. Let's talk about fungus.
Yeah, so let's
Love
talk
it.
about fungus.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about fungus. And it's
Fungus is the
nothing to
most
do with
notorious.
mushrooms. Similar to mushrooms, but we don't eat that one.
Well, fungus. There are so many different names that we use as podiatrists and just as general public. There's tinea, then there is athlete's foot, and the actual pathogen that's responsible for all of these, his name is Trichophyton rubrum.
He's
I thought
attractive.
that would be funny to mention.
So if anybody wants a new password, that'll be a good one. Huh?
It's a long one, but it's
It's
worth a
attractive.
try.
It's attractive.
So fungus. What happens is it thrives in the warm, moist environment of your running shoes. On average, our feet sweat a cup of perspiration a day. And especially
A
if you're a
cup?
runner, that's a cup of perspiration a day on a regular basis. But
Wow.
if you're physically active and if you're a runner, quadruple that. Now, with heat combined inside our shoes, that moisture builds up even more, creating a perfect breeding ground for fungus and bacteria to multiply, to thrive. What happens next is the bacteria and fungus consume dead skin cells, which is our calluses, corns, and nails. And that leads to waste production, like all living things do. It's basically fungal poop. And that's what actually causes a shoe odor. Your feet smell because of fungus pooping.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
important to make sure you treat your shoes first before it gets to your skin and nails. And I will tell you how shortly.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, obviously
So,
from a prevention
so
perspective. But talk to us more about the fungus.
there are two things. Yeah, so tinea is mainly skin infection. Athlete's foot is a skin infection, which
Okay.
happens in most cases in between the toes and then on the sole of your foot. What it looks like, it looks scaly, white. Sometimes you can develop blisters. Sometimes you can develop redness, and it's a clear frame like around your foot. And it's very itchy and annoying. You can definitely sense that something is not right with your feet. So that's your athlete's foot. The next one, if that condition is not treated, what happens is, as I mentioned earlier, it turns into nail fungus. We call this onychomycosis. Okay, usually it starts as a fungal infection and then it travels under the nail. So it starts as a tip of at the tip of your nail in 85% of all cases that we see, and that majority of it is your big toenail. As I have mentioned also, that due to injury, either by running downhill or having tight shoes or simply ill-fitted shoe, fungus can then attach to you, your nails and your skin, and then feed off it. So it attaches to you as a host. It needs something to use as a source of nutrient to enable to multiply and to thrive. And then what happens is that it starts with the tip of your toe and then slowly progresses down to the nail root, and that becomes a total dystrophic nail, which is very hard to treat, almost impossible. My goal is to catch that infection at the tip of the toe.
But I think, like with everything, like with everything, I think if people, once they realize they can see these symptoms, they need to go and see a professional. That's like a lot of us runners, and I'm one of them. We always think, oh, it's a 1 out of 10, it's a 2 out of 10, I can continue running. And the same as if I look at my feet, I'm like, yeah, they're okay. I think my biggest tip to all my runners and my friends and everything as well is just get it checked, because usually if we come early enough to someone like yourself, Alessya, it gets fixed within a few days, weeks, whatever it is, and it's not one of those things that lingers on for another month or 2 or 3 or 6
Think
or
of
12.
it this way: your feet carry you everywhere. It takes you to do your favorite hobby, being your ultra marathon trail. it takes you to go to work. It takes you to enjoy life. So the least you can do is to check on them once in a while. Say hello.
It's it's so enlightening talking to you. It's true. I mean, that's all we need to say. It's like, what do your feet do? They get you everywhere, you know. And if you don't look after them, it's yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So, what can we do to you know, the next steps to prevent this
To
fungal
prevent it.
infection
Yeah,
from
how do
happening,
we?
especially in summer, humidity? I'm worried. I mean, it's actually good timing, this podcast, because it's now
I
getting warm
agree.
and humid.
Yes.
Now is the time to look after our shoes and our socks and things like that. So, what are your professional tips on that?
I've actually developed a simple yet effective protocol for this very issue. I call this from fungus to fabulous treatment. It's a three-step guide to keep your feet fungus-free for life. What it is, it's treat your shoe first. Number one, treat your shoe. Eliminate all lurking pathogens in your shoes, orthotics, or braces. For example, ankle braces if you wear them during your run. Then you must treat your skin. Number two, and not just with caniston. Do not use caniston. Reason why? Because it tends to over dry your skin. So caniston is an antifungal cream that is used for athlete's foot, highly recommended by all GPs. What I found with that is that it creates a vicious cycle of chronic and stubborn tinea because it over dries the skin. As I mentioned earlier, fungus loves dead skin, dry skin. And that's how it starts to, again, get back to it, eat off it, and then multiply. So no to caniston. There are other options that are available through my From Fungus to Fabulous treatment guide. And if you have a very heavy amount of calluses, for example, in your heel area or underneath your second toe, which is, we call this a transfer callus. In running, we tend to offload, propulse forward through either our first, but if we have limited flexibility within the first metatarsophalangeal joint, which is your big toe, then we rely on our second digit. So that's why it's called the transfer callus. And that can cause a lot of callus buildup, sometimes actually corns. I see a lot of patients where I nucleate corns underneath the second metatarsal, behind the head. So yeah, if you've got a lot of calluses and corns, it's ideal to remove that first. So deprive fungus of its nutrient source. That is number two. And number three, finally, treat your nails. Nails on average take about 6 to 9 months to treat. If someone else told you otherwise, don't believe them. It takes 6 months on average to treat any nail fungus, okay, with any over-the-counter medications. There are oral tablets such as terbinafine, Lamisil, which is prescribed with a pre-treatment liver test, and every 3 months is repeated by liver test as well to make sure there are no potential side effects on the liver. It is highly debilitating medication, and I don't recommend it to my patients. I recommend something else instead. So like I said, there's over-the-counter treatments for nail fungus. Then we have oral terbinafine. Then next we have laser therapy, which is on average about 5 sessions in total. Research shows that 60% of all laser treatment, which is extremely expensive, mind you, results in reinfection. That's why I've just took 2 years to develop this From Fungus to Fabulous guide and became a founder of a germ guide company which distributes my products to other healthcare professionals following this guide, following clinically proven and effective treatments. So why we need to follow a 3-step guide is to prevent reinfection and to have at least 70% success rate. If you don't sanitize your shoes, no matter what you do with your skin and nails, the minute you put that shoe back on, you might as well do nothing in the first place.
I say to all my guys, because I work in an industry where we use a lot of synthetic products, so
Yeah.
the way I sell the fact to my runners to have more shoes is synthetic materials have to also, the rubber and all the rubber foam and all that has to recover as much as we do. So we need a bit more shoes in rotation. So if you have more than one pair of shoes, if you can afford 3 or 4 pairs of shoes, which are well fitted, something we'll talk about later, is I think is crucial. Plus, then you look after the shoes, which obviously now you're going to tell us.
You increase the lifespan of your shoes as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It's not the same thing as spraying it with tea tree spray or eucalyptus spray, because simply it doesn't have enough the same properties. It doesn't kill cell wall synthesis, respiration, and replication, which is what nanosilver, silver ions do. In contrast to tea tree spray, it only tends to mask the odor because it contains fragrance, whereas other sprays, actually nanosilver-based spray, shields it and protects it, and is activated by sweat every time you run. If you think about it, the reason why we need to sanitize shoes in the first place is because of that dark, damp environment, especially for ultra trail runners. That moisture is like Niagara Falls. If you think of it, you know where Niagara Falls is? It's in Canada.
Correct, yes. That's right. The Niagara Falls, hey? There's also Victoria Falls in Africa, so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Any kind of falls, huh? There's, And in the Blue Mountains, we've got a few beautiful ones as well, yeah.
True,
so for all the UTA 100 runners, when falls, that's Lura. Lura Falls is always damp, and also Nelly's Glen, so for people's imagination, that's how our shoes look like from the inside, in a nano perspective. It's a very good comparison.
A little bit of geography today as well.
You get everything here. This is called strides and vibes. We go everywhere where it hurts normally. So back to the shoes. What can we do about the shoes? So we need the right spray. Not just any eucalyptus spray. I like that. That's a good tip, because that's what everybody has at home probably. Many people. I have that as well. So.
Well, not just the spray alone is one. It's one thing to sanitize your shoe, but you also have to make sure you follow the proper shoe guide, which is a breathable shoe. So I prefer a mesh-like shoe where it allows more ventilation. Air can travel through the shoe while you're running as well. So what you can do is remove the insole out. Before you actually attempt to treating anything, I like more of a simple approach to things. Get your shoes out in the sun. Get the insole out. Some people don't do that, and that's where the moisture is still building up, because it's hard for the sun to get inside the shoe. So get the insert out of the shoe and leave it out in the sun to dry. So that's my very simple tip. As well as you can wear socks that are cotton or bamboo-like socks. Steigen socks or Tholos are my go-to. They are specifically designed for ultra marathons, and of course maintain a good foot hygiene. It's important to check your feet every morning or every night, dry between the toes. Sometimes you can use a hair dryer if you're too lazy.
Yeah, my wife's got a couple.
Oh yeah, there you go. Have you washed your feet today, Mario?
Absolutely. I have to be honest. I have we do have black toenails, but the feet. I have a lot of other ailments in my body, but my feet are they're like holy to me. That's the holy ground. So, and plus I've known you for a few months now, and we've been talking. So
we can talk about it now. Okay.
I love all your tips, and the shoes, the insoles. That's something I've never done before. The only tip I would have is we need to then shake the shoes out, just in case any of the creepy crawlers in Australia wander in there.
Oh yeah.
We need to make sure once we bring them back in that the
before
spiders
you put
stay
them
out.
back on. Yeah.
Correct.
Before you
Make sure there's no spider in there. But that's common sense in Australia, I think. So
sometimes you're just rushing and you forget.
Of course, This is why we need more than one shoe in the rotation. Yeah. So I think before we wrap up,
Yeah.
let's talk about shoe fitting. I'm a big fan of getting shoes fitted. I'm not mentioning any company. People who know me know where I go for my shoes and where I send everybody. And I get measured every single time. So I've had in the same place. I've had over 30. I've bought over 30 pairs of shoes in the same running shoe store in Sydney, and they measure me every single time. You'd think they know me by now but they are so professional. Say no, your feet. They grow, they shrink, whatever they do, we need to measure you. Plus shoe manufacturers change their widths and size willy-nilly as well, like other people.
They change the structure of the shoe often,
Correct, yeah.
such as Asics, they change it a lot.
Yes.
My simplest tip for finding the right shoe is to have a thumb width between your big toe and the end of the shoe, and you measure that standing up. When your body weight and the gravity and all that expands and splays inside the shoe, including your toes. So make sure you have about a thumb width between your big toe and the end of the shoe. So that's the proper fitting technique. As well as there's so many different foot types exist. I'm more of a technical person, so I like to be thorough. I prefer to do a biomechanical exam and a gait analysis where we test muscle strength, we test range of motion, we test whether or not certain joints are functional as well, and if not, what we can do and what shoe we need to recommend for that particular patient. So it's a little bit more technical, but I've recently written an article about proper shoe guide and lacing techniques, which I mentioned. You can check it out at your spare time at the end of this podcast. Also, I wanted to mention something, that prevention is always best before you treat with all the pharmaceutical medications. So I really wanted today to provide you with those preventative measures for all of you runners to avoid unnecessary foot problems in the first place. So as you said, yes, shoe selection is extremely important, and a gait analysis and a biomechanical exam can provide you with more of a comprehensive treatment, as well as give you more of a peace of mind what works and what doesn't for you, instead of buying 300 pairs of shoes, which takes on average, Mario, 1,000 years to biodegrade. So I like to be environmentally conscious about things like that. So I prefer to, if you do something, you do it right the first time. And it's important to replace your shoes approximately every 400 to 500 miles. I don't know how many kilometers that is.
Yeah, about 800 Ks,
Yeah, 800 Ks. So or if you notice anything uneven within the shoe itself, so if it's wobbly, then it's time to replace the shoe.
Or it could be that new high stack shoe that I've just bought.
Yeah, true. So
that's also wobbly, but that's okay.
And also it's important to consider different shoe types for different terrains and ultra running. So you know that as well.
Yeah, I also say, different stack heights, so heel to toe drop, different makes, different models from the same manufacturer. Let the feet have a bit of, variety. I think that's just good for overall strength, and protect your foot, of course, but also give it a bit of freedom. I'm not a big fan of shoes with a toe drop of 12 millimeters. I think that's too high. That's just from a biomechanic perspective. I also advise, some of my lady runners maybe just to hold off, high heels too long, too much. Yeah. Just that all doesn't help, of course, but that's a complete different subject. I mean, I understand people have to wear. I mean, I have to wear a suit and shoes when I go to exhibitions and stuff, but that's like 8 hours and then I get out of them.
Oh yeah.
So this is kind of the mindset.
Different story. I can go on about that forever.
I know. I think there's another 3 podcasts, no problem. So yeah, let's wrap this up. I just want to say a huge, big thank you for your time today, Alessya, and for your willingness to share all your knowledge, which you've hard earned. and we're always very appreciative in the running, in the running neighborhood of anybody of your caliber to help us out. And no doubt people will get in touch with you once we've got the show notes out, and I'll link to everything that you've done, all your articles and things like that. So thank you very much. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure, Mario. Thank you for having me, and happy running, everyone. And here's the fungus-free fabulous feet. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it for this episode, folks. As we wrap up, I want to honor the traditional custodians of the land I'm recording on and pay my respects to elders past and present. May we continue to listen, learn, and tread lightly wherever we run. If today's episode sparked something in you, hit that share button, leave a review, or drop a comment on Spotify or YouTube. Every little bit helps keep the momentum going. Or even if you've got a question, feedback, or just want to say hi, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep moving, stay curious, and never forget, showing up is the hardest and bravest stride of all.